My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. On today's episode, I have a fantastic lady named Edna Medinilla, and I met her over the weekend at a talk, and I listened to her speak for a little bit, and I thought she was fascinating with an excellent story, intriguing, and so I decided to invite her on, and she said yes, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome aboard, Edna. Welcome to your F.A.T.E. How you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. I saw you over the weekend at talk. I knew it getting into the spiritual world, and I'm learning and really been fascinated by so many people who have inspired me along the way. And I wanted to talk more about what you do. You are a intuitive energy healer, you quantum healing and sound therapist. You're an angelic healing practitioner. You're all in the spiritual arts of healing, which I'm completely enamored with. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background, about how you got started in doing this, and what was your spiritual journey?
Okay, so I've been doing this now for friends and family. I started off doing healing sessions and discovering my gifts about 3 years ago. Yeah, so 3 years ago is when it all came to me, during COVID. It was that time where people were like searching for what's my next step. This can't be all, I was tired of, the regular routine day after day after day after day after day. And then it seemed like it all went away and we were all stuck at home.
Yeah.
And before that, I still am a teacher. So for the last 30 years, I have been in the classroom teaching second graders, 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds. And, but after 30 years, I was tired. I got tired of it, and at that point in my life, we went from regular classroom to Zoom online. And I thought, okay, well, this is all right, but I don't really want to go back to the classroom. There must be something else. What else is there? And so that's when I went searching for what else is out there. And that's how I started my journey into, discovering my gifts. Before that, like most women, we hit that age where everything starts to feel like it's falling apart. And you go to the doctor and you say, my back hurts, my knees hurt, my ankles swell up, and they keep telling you, well, it's your age. You're getting up in age, you're getting older. And so they would just give me ibuprofen, or they would give me Tylenol, and they just say, rest your legs, take it easy, and just take the anti-inflammatory medication. But, at age 40, you're like, I don't want to take this for the next 60 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's like, okay, so I started looking for alternative ways to handle the pain and to reduce the swelling and to reduce the inflammation, which is when I discovered, herbal teas, and looking into alternative medicine and what vegetable, what plant can I drink or take. And then I discovered Donna Eden's energy work, and she works with her hands. And I was always fascinated with the idea of, I had heard that people can actually heal others with their hands. And I thought, I wonder if that's really true. I wonder if that's really possible. And so I started taking a class where I started working on myself to try to get rid of those pains and aches that were, annoying me at the end of the day from standing all day and walking around the classroom all day. And I discovered that, yes, it is possible. It is possible to actually feel better, not only taking the teas and the herbs, but also working on your energy field. And so that's how I discovered that, that energy work is possible. So that was my first steps into this world of healing.
So that's interesting because, I kind of started stepping on my path right around after COVID, right in the last year or so. So I do think there was a massive shift in people's thoughts when everything kind of shut down and we started stewing in our own thoughts every day and not being distracted. And spiritual awakening may happen at that point.
Yeah. We had a lot of downtime where we were locked up in our homes. I mean, what else is there? What else can we do?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So how did
Yeah.
you
So
how
that's
did you end up figuring out how to tap into your energy side, your spiritual side, connecting with higher the archangels and stuff like that? How did that come
Mhm.
about in your life?
So after I discovered that I could, start using my hands to change the energy field around myself, um, I discovered, well, I've always been what I would call spiritual. I grew up in a Catholic home. I was raised Catholic, still am Catholic. Um, in the elementary years, I was put in private school, which was a Christian school. So I grew up with the belief in God and in Jesus, and praying if there was something you needed or wanted in life, to pray for assistance and help. So I've always sort of been connected in that way. So that, I've always felt that if there's something difficult in life, you can always pray about it and help will somehow show up. So that connection has always been there. However, um, after I started doing, being able to clear my own energy, I started working on my husband, and because he suffers from arthritis in his knees, and I wanted to see if it worked, if it would work on him. And so then I started working on his energy field and trying to help him do some relief. And he would tell me it would work. And I would say, okay, well, I think it might just be a placebo effect because I'm very analytical in that sense. I grew up with, that's not something people actually do. So I was like, okay, well, he's probably just telling me that because he's trying to be nice. But I was still searching for answers. What else is there out there? What else can I do with my life? How else can I serve? Because as a teacher, all you want to do is serve. And, I serve children and I serve their families to help them grow. But after I retire, what else can I do? What else can I do in service of others? So that's when I went searching for answers. I took a class with Radley Valentine. He had a mastermind. He's the one who does the oracle cards, the angel
Oh,
oracle
yeah, yeah,
cards.
yeah.
He was, yeah, he was having a week. It was a week event in Palm Springs, and I signed up to go during my break, my spring break. And after class, we would go to dinner as a group, and we would talk about the different modalities that they had that people were using, like reading tarot cards, connecting to their angels, channeling, mediumship. And I was just sitting there like the new girl, had no idea what I was doing, but I just wanted to be around them to see, just to get an idea of what this world was about. I had already been to a couple of healing fairs like the one we met at, but I hadn't been there as a vendor. I had been there as a participant because I had gone in there looking for answers. And I had already spoken to a few psychics, and I'd asked them, I'm looking for my purpose. I don't know why I'm here. It's like, what is my purpose? And on different occasions over a year, it would always come up that I was a healer. The card healer would come up. And I didn't believe him because it's like, no, I'm a teacher. I'm not a healer. It's like, I'm a teacher, not a healer. So when I went over to this event, we were having dinner at one of the Airbnbs, and one of the girls had fallen that afternoon, and her knee was hurting. And I just asked, I go, do you think I could try to see if I can get rid of the pain? And she goes, yeah, sure. So I just started waving my hands over her knees, and I can actually sense pain from people in my hands.
I was gonna ask you if you
That's how
had
I know.
any kind of spidey senses like that.
I do. So I will feel around in people's auras, and then I could find where the pain is. Usually I get tingling, or I might feel their actual physical pain. And so that's where I concentrate, and I actually start channeling the energy into that area. And I did that for her, and she asked me, how did you do that? I go, I don't know how I did it. I just know that it worked. So, so that's how I discovered that was true. My husband wasn't making it up. He wasn't lying to me. It wasn't placebo. This actually worked. So that's how I actually started to start developing my skills as an actual healer in public.
And how long have you been confident enough to take your practice out and start charging for services? Because I know that a lot of people, initially have like don't feel as confident as they should about their own capabilities and, well enough to put yourself out there as a healer. It takes, from what I understand, it takes some time and it takes some ability to grow that confidence of knowing that you possess those spidey senses, I keep calling them, but those
Yeah.
intuitive gifts that people on the planet have. How far along before you started really trusting your own uh, abilities?
So after I discovered that it was possible and that I actually could do this, I did take about a year to take classes. I took quantum touch classes and I took just quantum healing classes and I took classes on angelic healing. So I took a lot of classes just to develop my skill. And I would give a lot of free sessions to my family members because they're the closest people in my house. And I didn't want anybody to know because this isn't something that, we announce to the world, especially if we're not sure. So we keep it private. And so for about a year, I just kept working on myself and on others in my family to develop my skills. And eventually I finally decided the beginning of last year, like 2024, early 2024, when I decided, okay, it's time to give it a try. And I went to my first healing fair to try it out in public. So I guess I'm relatively
Yeah,
new to the
to the game.
to
Yeah,
the
I'm new to the game too.
game. Yes.
I mean, honestly, I had no sense of spirituality at all growing up. Part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is I'm kind of documenting the fact that I have gone from having no spirituality through I went through a healing crisis. I spent quite a few years very, very, very sick trying to find my cure. And when Western medicine didn't have anything for me, you automatically end up moving towards energy healing. Like I do know of Donna Eden. And after years of trying things and them failing and then trying some other things that, quite frankly, most people would think I was nuts for trying. And then having those work, it really did change my perspective, and then of course you end up going further and further and further down the wealth
Mhm.
of information that's out there that, it's interesting what you said that you kept your gifts private because most people would not embrace that way of healing or that modality and it is looked upon as a bit woo woo and something not to be taken seriously. But coming from my perspective where I spent almost a decade very ill and nothing of mainstream helped me, only things that were not mainstream helped. It really opens your mind, to other things. And part of what opened my whole perspective was I now believe that I am a spirit and that I'm not going to die. I will live on. And I'm still trying to figure out what the nature of this reality is and what we're swimming in really. But I
Mhm.
I believe that if you come with an approach of a very open mind, like I've been trying to do for the last few years, you start finding truth in a lot of things that I would never have ever even been remotely even interested in knowing had I not gone down my path of healing. How is back to you? Why don't you speak about that process as far as when you're dealing with clients or when you're just dealing with your family members in your channeling the angels for information? How has that changed or transformed your views on religion, for instance? Because I find that once you get into energy healing and spiritually and frequency and vibration, it gets a little messy with organized religion. They kind of don't align a lot. And I'm curious, and how are you molding those two together to make, your own belief system?
Yeah. And that one's a tricky one. Um, like I said, I was brought up Catholic. Um, Tarot cards, oracle cards,
Those are
healers.
big
That's
no-nos.
something that, yes, exactly.
Those are big
Those are things we
no-nos.
stay away
Yes,
from.
exactly, exactly.
Those are things we have, like, we don't talk about it. We don't go near that. That's
That's the devil.
so that was very difficult to overcome. I think that was the number one challenge for me was, okay, if this is actually working, this healing thing, it has to be something, more to life, to spirituality than what religion is telling me.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So, uh, I had to overcome those fears so that I could actually open up my channels so that I could be able to heal and so that I could be able to feel what I was actually feeling. Because at that point, because of religion, that fear of, oh my goodness, you might be calling in demons, you don't know what's going to come in. Um, that was something that I had to overcome and realize that, the divine is all love all the time.
I'm
And if I
I'm
need,
so glad you have that perspective because I've been in my opening my own mind and my thoughts to things like this. I think channelers are some of the most fascinating and intuitive people out there. And yet, whenever I tell somebody I'm interested in listening to channelers, they have that same exact response that anybody who's a channeler is allowing evil within, and you should not listen to them. And yet, every channeler that I have been exposed to so far has been channeling somebody of deep wisdom and deep goodness. It's not that I don't think dark can't inhabit us. I'm not saying that. I am saying when somebody has proclaimed that they are a channeler, I find that they're always channeling with somebody who has a deep love for humanity.
right, that is correct. And one of the ways that, I was taught from the many courses that I've taken is that you always want to start with the light. You always want to call in the light. You want to create a beautiful white bubble. You want to call in the Archangel Michael and and Archangel Uriel for protection and to keep you safe. And I always state, I only allow that which is of love and light to come into my circle. And with that, there's nothing else possible that could come in because you've got the protection of I call them the A team, which is my team of angels. So, you know, you get surrounded by your angels and then you just allow that love energy to come through you to help.
Do you
So,
channel every day, or are you channeling only for specific moments or things or times that you need an additional support around you, or do you feel that you sit down and go into meditation or channel mode often?
um, I, I meditate daily, which is a practice that I do not very long because I still have my 9 to 5 job. So I meditate in the morning before I get up and go to work. And, I set my intentions for the day and I set forth, love and joy for everyone. And I be of service to whomever may need it. So I do meditate every day. Um, I most of the times there are situations where I do channel on a daily basis. Could be for personal healing, for family member healing, um, for blessings when there's such difficult situations that are going on at school. Some of the children who might be suffering, I always say for their highest good. Whatever comes through for their highest good. I've discovered that going places is difficult. Leaving the house and being around people is difficult because there is so much different energy. And the longer I've been doing it now, the easier it becomes to feel all that energy, where before it was all closed off. So I didn't really feel it. But now I'm starting to feel it. It's like, oh, that's not my headache. Who in this room has a headache? Oh, that's a shoulder pain. Whose pain is that?
That is fascinating. I have also been told that, but because again, going through all my healing stuff, I have been to quite a few intuitive medical people, and I remember one of them quite clearly saying, "You really need to learn how to protect your own energy. Your aura looks like," she called me pig pen. She's like, "You people's energy sticks to you. You're having feelings and you don't even know why you're having them." She's like, "You're going to have to
Right.
like really put a boundary up because I was allowing everybody's frequency to invade my space and inhabit my my mind and hijacking my emotional state, basically. Now, in being that you're new in this arena yourself, have you had any major pushback from anybody in your circle as far as them being non-supportive or feeling like it is going against their religious beliefs to support you in your new journey? Or do you feel like everyone's been open-minded?
Well, so my immediate family, my sons and my husband, they know that I had these skills, and because I use it on them. And my mother, she's not a true believer, but she'll allow me to use the sound bowls on her or the tuning forks on her. So while I'm doing that, I'm actually doing energy work, but through the pretense of sound and frequencies. So I haven't really told my entire family, only just my immediate family.
Oh,
That
interesting.
yeah, because like I said, we are Catholic, and so that's not something we discuss. Even if if we know that we know, we don't talk about it publicly.
I mean, I didn't grow up Catholic, but I grew up with that exact same thought in my family. We wouldn't talk about it. It would get swept under the rug. I think that's a theme in a lot of religions to not openly discuss things that are difficult to talk about. You
Yeah,
know, it's a big
exactly.
old, or maybe that's the era of sweeping it under the rug. I don't know. Maybe it's, maybe it's getting better out there. It doesn't feel like it though, as far as religion goes, anyways. And I have always felt that religion was very rigid and
Mhm.
not very open to any other perspectives other than the one that, there's one perspective and you better hold it, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yes,
Only one
that
perspective,
is true. Right. Mhm.
So, as far as your business, what services are you offering clients now? How do you promote your business?
So I do a lot of physical pain because a lot of people are in physical pain and they don't really know that the physical pain is actually being activated by something else. Like, for instance, it could be due to stress or emotional pain because those things, when we have stress in our life or we have an emotional pain or we're going through some kind of stress, it actually gets stuck in our auric field. And those blocks are what I'm feeling. But if they stay there long enough, they actually become physical pains. Those are your aches and your pains that you say, well, I'm taking this Tylenol and it just doesn't help. It's like, well, you're right, because you're not really addressing the blocks that are there. So I do work with people in clearing their auras, be it for physical, mental, or emotional, which are usually the three that are connected. And people are like, well, I have the stomach pain and I've gone to the doctor and the doctor tells me there's nothing wrong with my stomach. And I'm like, you're right. It's not in your stomach. It's in your auric field, which is not something that they can detect at this time. So we clear that out. So I work with people in those areas. I also use my sound baths, my sound bowls to help clear out the chakras and align the chakras because that also helps, help relax, de-stress, and then able to accept the energy work as well. So those are the type of energy work that I do. Um, there have been times when there's a person that is in a lot of pain and just with the person saying, I need help, I can automatically feel my body. I call it an activation. My body just goes into activation mode. And I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely need work. And then I just start sending energy. It's like, now it's just automatic. The energy just flows through me.
I love it. Mm. What was your first channeling experience like? Were you trying to channel or did they just come to you, and which angel came to you first? Who did you channel first?
So the archangels for me come in color. So when I'm meditating in a state of meditation and I call in a certain angel, or even if I'm just meditating and I'm not calling anybody in particular in, a certain color will come in and then I will know there's an angel present. Um, I am what we call clear knowing.
Okay.
So sometimes I think that the thoughts that I'm having are my own, but they're actually not. It's difficult when you don't have the clear audience, and you can actually hear them. But I just get messages and I just know, and I know it's not me, but I think it might be me sometimes, but it's not. And then I'll ask the person, like they'll say, okay, I was working on a lady this weekend, and as I was working, I was sending energy. I heard, uh, she needs a card reading.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, and I kept working on her, and the thought kept coming back. She needs a card reading, and I had my oracle cards, my archangel sort of light oracle cards with me, and I asked her, "Did you come here with the question?" And then she goes, "Well, I have many questions," and I'm like, "Okay." And then she goes, "Well, the reason I'm here," she goes, "is because sometimes when I'm praying and I'm asking for help, I don't seem to get an answer." And I'm like, okay, well, I keep hearing that I'm supposed to, pull a card for you. So I started shuffling the deck, and sure enough, I pulled a card that says, your prayers are being answered. You just aren't it's not the way you want it to be answered.
Wow.
And then she was like, oh, thank you, thank you. Now, I don't know why that came through, but obviously she needed to hear that. And it just said, she needs you to read her card. I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask.
It's super fascinating. What do you feel is, in your experience, the most important energy modality that people should be doing or using on themselves if they
Yes.
can?
Meditation.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Meditation is the number one, because that brings us into that still point, that the present moment. If people were and I know nobody wants to meditate for 30 minutes. I know, I get it. When I try to meditate for 30 minutes, I fall asleep. It's
I have to tell you,
like it doesn't work
I'm
for me.
struggling. Like, I am struggling to do it every day. And it is your ego that's like, you don't have time. I don't want to do that. Nah, 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 nah. It's like, you really do have to have the discipline to be like, I love myself enough to sit down every morning and do it 10 or 15 minutes, to start.
Yeah. So I was one of the like mentors is Suzanne Giesman. She's a medium, and she has what's called a sip of the divine, which is the process of sitting for about 10 minutes you meditate for 10 minutes, and then that's it. You're still for 10 minutes. You stop thinking, you just start breathing in and out to help yourself relax a couple of times, and you focus on just your breath for 10 minutes, and then you're done. So I do the sip of the divine every morning. And if I have time in the evening, I'll do another 10 minutes just to get me in the practice of being still and listening for those messages that might be coming down that I couldn't hear because I was too busy running around all day long.
It really is a practice too, because once you start trying to slow down your mind, it is so much more challenging than people think it is. It's really, as much as you think meditation is going to be a passive thing, for me, I don't know, it's not passive. It is me really focusing all I can to get my monkey mind to stop talking to me. And we all have that voice that is speaking to us, and sometimes you should be listening to it, and sometimes people should not be listening to that voice in their head because it's not kind to them. Like, I'm
Yes.
lucky as far as I don't talk mean about myself or anything like that. I don't call myself names or anything. But I have talked to plenty of people in my life who do have that negativity going on in their head and can't seem to shut that off. They're not good enough. They're not worthy. The lack of self love that people have out there for themselves, lack of self acceptance, which I struggle with myself. Everybody does, I think, on some level, unless you're a unicorn, you're going to struggle with having self love and grace for your own self, your own who you are. But meditation for me has been a game changer. It has allowed practice focusing and clearing my mind, which is a discipline that nobody has. Like, it's really hard,
No, that's
It's super hard.
not in our age right now. There's too much going on everywhere around
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
and we are so heavily distracted these days with everything from trying to make a living to our smartphones to whatever screen you are looking at, not to mention the families. And we are just inundated with distractions. And I have found that going within is learning to have that sense of peace and acceptance and loving yourself.
And health.
Yes. Yes.
Because once you calm the mind, you actually bring down the stress level, which is causing all the cortisol and all those hormones to run through your body. The fight and flight system actually calms down, which allows your body to heal itself.
100%. One of the reasons why I want to start talking about health a lot on this podcast and the alternative ways that you can heal yourself, because I find that they are so much more natural and so much more in alignment with what our bodies really need. And I think taking a pill for 30 years, why do that when you can literally do something that's not going to cost you any money, sitting and meditating? And let's face it, the vast, vast majority, if we would just fix what we're putting in our mouths, that's the number one, in my opinion, for all health above everything, is what we put in our mouths. And I don't think anybody can even begin to heal themselves unless they fix what they're putting in their mouth. It's
That's true.
very hard for people to do. Food is something that you can do every day that'll give you a little bit of yum, 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 yummy, that pleasure that everyone's seeking. And unfortunately, a lot of that pleasure seeking ends up putting pounds and toxins and causes dis-ease. Part of the reason
Yeah,
that we're all walking around a little half dumb these days is because we are hopped up on sugar in our brains.
absolutely.
And it is controlling us not only physically, but emotionally. If you don't have your sugar kick, you're going to get a little, you get a little angry and whatnot. I know I used to, for
Yep.
sure. Well, let's see. What else here? What has connecting to your archangels, your spirit guides, what has it taught you the most about humanity and about the nature of our reality here on Earth?
So, um, like I said, I had always been in the sense spiritual. I believed in God, and I always prayed every morning and pray to God, pray to Jesus, ask for help whenever I needed it. But there were times in my life, and I'm sure there will be in the future, when there are lessons you need to learn, and those are your hard times. You have your ups and your downs, and when you're down really low, and it's in a dark place, and you're praying, and you feel like those other people that you said, it's like you pray but you don't hear an answer. It's like I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, and I don't hear anything. And they used your question, is there anybody out there? So what I've discovered now that I've actually allowed my healing gifts to come through is that, and my connections has gotten stronger, is the knowing that the hard times are coming, but that I will always have my angels there to protect me. Even though I may not actually um, hear the answer I want to hear in the moment I want to hear it, I still know, because I can now feel the energy, that they're there. So just the knowing that you're really not alone,
Yeah.
even though you as a human feel alone a lot of the times, it's very comforting. It's like, just to know, it's like, yes, there's a reason why you're going through this. Is probably a lesson I need to learn. It sucks, but it's just something you have to go through. And you're gonna make it up. You're gonna make it to the other side, okay? And you have support.
I love that. I love that. If people want to get a hold of you, we're in Los Angeles. So if people want to get a hold of you for any kind of healing or any kind of, some messages from the other side, what is the best way that people can contact you?
I do have my website. It's called Edna Energetics. I also have, I'm on Instagram under Edna Energetics as well. I just created a new tap link, which has all my different, Facebook, Instagram. It's also under Edna Energetics, or they can just contact me. My email is edna@ednamedinilla.com.
Love it.
Yes.
Is there anything out there in the world of podcast listeners as far as people that are stepping on their path, or maybe they're being held back a little bit by their religion about investigating their potential intuitive gifts that many of us would not even consider uh moving into, because you do get kind of shunned away from doing things like that. Do you have any advice for anybody? I know for
Yes.
me, from stepping onto my spiritual path, and it's still just beginning and I'm still learning, but I will say for me, I'm working very hard on non-reactive. When I hear bad news, when something makes me mad, when I'm annoyed over something, I am trying to be less reactive and more like, what is this teaching me? Looking at things more as challenges rather than just reacting emotionally and letting my emotions dictate my life.
Yes. So one of the things that to get yourself centered and when you're getting all riled up, because some people have a hard time. I mean, as humans, we like to interact, but sometimes the interactions, we say something and people take it wrong or we take it wrong. So we have to learn to say, what is the lesson here?
Yes.
What am I supposed to learn from this? Because there's always a lesson. Everything. Okay. So I don't believe that there is a God out there that wants to punish us. I think he's a loving
I
God.
agree.
So he's a loving God that he's not going to put things in your way because he's trying to punish you. So what happens is, things are happening for you, not to you.
I agree. I do believe when you're in your darkest, or when you hit obstacles in your life and you're going through a very trying time, you might be going down, but in that down, you are going to rise. And I think that challenges and obstacles and bad things, or however you want to say it, happen to everybody. It doesn't have anything to do with what kind of person you are. It does really have to do with how you handle it, how you react to it. And those are your opportunities where you can rise. And
Yes.
and I think if people thought about it like that more, instead of focusing on whatever bad thing happened to them, it could be a very impactful tool to be able to navigate this experience we're calling life, without as much, anxiety and anguish and desperation and the plethora of things that we have floating in our human consciousness now. For me right now, my current belief that I reserve the right to change at any second. I do believe that we create our own reality to a certain extent by whatever we're resonating at, how we're vibrating. That is what the universe is going to show you. And if
Exactly.
you're resonating with very low vibrational feelings like anger or jealousy or shame or guilt or whatever, you're going to see that reflected in your outer world. And I want to keep saying that on this podcast, like, very often, to maybe get people's perspective to switch a little and influence them enough to say, hey, my life's not so great. Maybe it's what I'm resonating with or who I'm resonating with. And I'm not trying to put blame on anybody. I'm just saying it's very easy in this world of distractions to be led around by your emotions without consciously thinking about them. And I don't think people understand how dangerous that can be.
Yeah,
It could,
exactly. And then they get stuck in your aura field and then you get sick. And we're back to square one, right? Which is why I say it's like, when I heal people, my mission is to help people heal and transform, because people actually heal themselves. I just help channel the energy to them. But that will raise their vibration. And the higher your vibration, the happier you'll be, the happier the people around you will be, the happier your life will be. So why not, help others feel better about themselves so that we can all feel better about ourselves?
completely agree. And a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I have changed radically in the last year of my life. And it really prompted me to get out there and start talking about it because I've gained a lot of tools that I feel are super helpful in navigating life. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I am just living more consciously.
It's true. Wait, you but it's for those people who are in a state of fear or, my religion doesn't let me do that, or my religion doesn't let me, that's something I shouldn't do or say or look into. I say baby
Yeah.
steps, baby
Yeah.
steps. You know, it's like you don't have to dive in, go woo from today to tomorrow, but just start looking into it. Read a book or read an article or watch a YouTube video or attend a healing fair and meet people.
Yeah.
Just baby
Yep.
steps.
I think that it's very hard to wander into this world unless you're prompted sometimes. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people have to be shaken to be awakened. And I know I was. I was desperately ill for a lot of years. I was a mess. It was baby steps. But then the other thing, when my body started responding to these alternative ways of healing, you really do find a new way of approaching um, not only your physical health, but your mental well-being and just the way that you walk in the world. I mean, I feel like I have an entirely different perspective, and I'm hoping that I can get other people to do the same. At the end of the
Uh-huh.
day, it's only going to be something that is going to be of great benefit to yourself. The world is increasingly, in my opinion, becoming very dystopian like. It's just becoming bizarre out there. And I think part of the reason is why is because people are a lot of them are super unhappy and they are super lost
Yeah.
and they are super beyond themselves as far as what to do about it. And I just think if you could just live a little bit more consciously, your health and potentially your wealth and potentially your entire reality could shift in big ways, in really big ways. It's
Yeah.
just fascinating. Um, well, Edna, I really appreciate you coming on and speaking with me. And I am ever grateful that you've become a part of the show. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is
Yum.
Edna. She is energy healer, intuitive, quantum healing. You know how to get a hold of her. It'll be in the show notes. If you are having any issues with pain, inflammation, you want to touch the hand of your archangels and get feedback, please reach out to her and she'd be happy to assist you in any of those things. Uh, until next time, guys, thank you for listening to Fate, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody. Alrighty, guys, that was a wrap on episode number 7. Energy Healing with Edna. She's a lovely lady. That actually was the very first episode I recorded with somebody that I did not know. It was a little wonky, and I'm getting better at this, but that was my first interview out of the gate. I liked Edna's story because she really has just come into her own knowledge that she has a greater capacity to heal herself in the last few years, especially with COVID. I think a lot of things changed out there in the world when everything shut down and people had been put on pause essentially. I think that there was a lot of people looking around and wondering exactly what Edna was wondering, which was, what else is there? What else is going on? What are we doing here? And I love that she took that time to investigate and to open up her own healing abilities, to focus on herself, to take courses, to have an open mind enough to understand that possibly there was more out there to be had than what we are currently accepting as our reality within our current situation. And I love that Edna leaned into that and started digging deep and understanding that there's more to us than what we think, and that we definitely have the capacity to heal ourselves, heal others. We are energetic beings. And I think there's a lot more people out there that are going to come into an understanding that maybe we don't have all of our history, and maybe there is much more to our existence here on the planet than what we had otherwise thought in mainstream science and mainstream TV and in mainstream life. So I'm excited to talk to people that are coming into their own sense of power and their own sense of being able to heal and working on their intuitive gifts that I think we're all born with, that we really don't focus on or acknowledge day to day. So that was the big takeaway, I think, with Edna. I highly recommend, if you're in the LA area, to reach out to her if you're having any kind of aches or pains or anything. Her information will be in the show notes. I hope this story, this podcast, encourages people to investigate their own possible intuitive gifts. I think we're all born with something, and I think that it's just the time that it would take to focus, and I'm still figuring out mine. Next week, I am bringing you Dave Schrader, the paranormal guy. He hosts a show called Paranormal 60. He is kind of a big deal. I'm super excited to get him on. I'm going to have the conversation that I've been wanting to have on this podcast for a good while now. We're going to discuss the nature of our reality. He has a wealth of information. He's been a paranormal investigator for over 20 years. It's called Paranormal Perspectives with Dave Schrader. Love it. He's a huge paranormal guy, been doing investigations for over 20 years. He's been on television. He's written books. He is a deep well of information about all things spooky, supernatural, aliens, you name it. He's investigated it. I am having him on the show to discuss my favorite topic. What is the nature of our reality here? What is consciousness? What are we doing here? Do we have a sole purpose? We're going to be talking about it all. I am absolutely over the moon excited to get him on the show. I cannot wait to bring it to you. And get excited, guys. The next show is going to be big. So stay tuned for that. I can't wait. With that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Edna's information will be in the show notes. If you want to follow the show, I'm on Insta at F.A.T.E Podcast. It's at F.A.T.E podcast. Follow the show. I do little clips. Send me a DM if you want me to talk about something on the show that I have not yet. I've got some pretty cool stuff coming up. If you really want to support the show, I'm on Venmo. You can drop me a tip at Christy Busby. It's at Christy-Busby on Venmo. You can leave me a tip. Give me a little encouragement. I'm struggling with trying to keep up with these podcasts and do my job at the same time. So I need all the encouragement I can get in life. That's for sure. With that, guys, I will see you with Dave Schrader for Paranormal Perspectives with Dave Schrader on F.A.T.E next week. I hope you tune in and journey well, everybody. We'll see you next week.